Hello, it's Tuppence again. It's Froggy Friday and I have my broken frog mould. It's been repaired on that hip and it's also stained ever since I did my Liberty frog. But that's okay because I'm not using resin this week. I'm going to be using Aqua Cast. I've got some of that in a pot over here. I've also got 2 medicine cups and some pigment for eco pores or eco resins. This is medium yellow and I've got a green. I'm going to mix up very small amounts of resin, therefore I'm just going to do this by eye. So before I put the powder in, I'm actually going to put a tiny bit of water into the bottom of the medicine cup. That should be enough, more than enough, and now I can add the powder. I'm looking for a thicker consistency than you would normally use when you're pouring, because I want to use this to make some spots or speckles on the bottom of the frog. That's far too liquid, so I'm going to add a bit more. I want it the kind of consistency of toothpaste. So I'm just going to mix it around, make sure that there aren't any lumps, and that's looking a little more promising. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. I'm still going to add the pigment, so I'm going to add 1 drop of the medium yellow. And I got these from Temu, so they aren't the best, but we'll see how this comes out. Now I'm dotting onto the bottom of the mould, and I'm going to put speckles as much as I can in the body. I'm not going to bother with the feet yet, just around the thighs and the body, and I'll just get some in the head, but I really only want it on the top of the frog. I mixed up some of the green and I'm adding that as well. Now I probably could have made this a lot stronger than I did. I'm trying to place the dots anywhere where they're not going to touch the yellow. I don't want these to mix together. And as I've got so much left over, I'm going to put some into the toes. And I think I'll bring it down into the feet as well, so that this can be graduating into whatever colour I decide to do the body. Anything that I've got left over, I'll add a little bit of water to and make terrazzo chips. So I might as well add some of the yellow as well. Most of this probably won't be seen because it's going to be behind the green that I've currently got there, but might as well use it up. Okay, so now I need to leave that to dry. I'm going to mix up some more Aqua Cast. I've got 149 grams of powder, 53 grams of water. I like to put my powder into my water and mix it rather than the other way round. I just find it mixes easier. So you don't have to mix this for any set period of time. You just need to make sure that you get all of the lumps out and that the powder is all mixed in. So this is the consistency you have. It's kind of like a thick milkshake. Now I'm going to add the same colours that I used before. So I've got about 3 drops of the yellow. And shake them before I use them. And I don't know how many drops that was because it's squirted in there. Okay, so I'm going to mix these together and I'm looking for one solid colour. I don't want any marbling here. So just mix those in and scrape that colour off of the side so that I don't get any dark green. It gave me an apple green colour and I'm going to pour that into my mould. I've just got a little bit of powder there. Mix that in and now I can pour this in. So because it's much thicker than resin, it's more difficult to get into the arms and the feet. So once I've dumped this into the body, I'm going to scrape the rest of it out of the cup and then I'll use a stick to spread that into the toes and try and clean up any of the overspill. The more work you do now, the better, and you won't have to crack off the dried Aqua Cast afterwards. So I'm just going to use my fingers to help smooth this out, and that's okay, it is water-based. You'll be able to clean off your fingers afterwards, and as long as you use a baby wipe and don't wash any of the eco resin down the sink, then you'll be fine, because otherwise you will ruin your plumbing and you really don't want to be doing that. I'm going to tap this now and make sure that all the bubbles are released, and I'll be back when it's cured. Okay, that is now cured, and in the cleaning up of some of the overspill, I did manage to crack the toes, which is kind of inevitable. It would have happened when I was demoulding anyway. So I'm going to put some UV resin onto the back. I'm going to put a fairly thin layer. I'll just spread this out, and then I can use my silicone tool to move that into the areas, concentrating on those toes. You can see how much darker it has made the Aqua Cast on the back, and of course that's going to be shiny and sealed, but as long as I don't seal the rest of it, it will still be able to continue curing, because that's going to take 24 hours at least. Let's take this out of the mould. Still need to be really careful around the toes. At the moment they're literally being held on by the resin on the back, and that's acting like a kind of hinge. So they are still flapping around, as you can see. So I will need to put some glue in there. All right, let's turn him over. And that is entirely underwhelming. Those colours, they're just not showing up. And that is okay, because through the process of making this, I've actually changed my mind as to what this frog is going to be. Sometimes I get an idea in my brain and I cannot move on to doing anything else until I've made that. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm using an acrylic paint marker. I've got a blue one, a yellow one and a purple one, and I'm going to put the dots in that should have been there before, but I'm going to add to them and turn this into markings that you might find on an undersea creature, because I'm going to create an undersea reef frog, and the frog is going to become the reef, and he'll be covered in other sea creatures and animals. Okay, so those are looking quite good. So I need to leave that to dry. Now I wanted to use this mould and some polymer clay to bake the shapes around the frog, because Aqua Cast can withstand heat and go in the oven. But I've put the UV resin on the bottoms, so that's no longer a possibility, as I can't put that in the oven. I'm going to be using some Airdry foam clay instead, and I'll have to wait for it to dry. So I'm also going to be using some of this chrome powder from Let's Resin. This is the gold, and I'm going to use that to dust the mould, because this is pretty intricate. Now I'm not relying on this imparting colour on there. I'm hoping that it will pick up quite a lot of colour, but I'm just trying to use it as a kind of release agent so that it forms a barrier between the clay and the mould, and therefore it should help me to remove it. I'm also going to add some of this red, and this is such a gorgeous colour, and I did mix these two colours. I put a little bit of gold and red into a pot and mixed them, and I got a pretty nice orange, so you can mix the colours too. Alright, I'm going to take some of the foam clay and I'm going to try and push it into this mould. This mould is actually meant for baking, and it has this kind of ridge around the edges of the cavity that you're supposed to roll your fondant against. But it also works pretty well for this. So I'm going to use my silicone tool to try and push this down into all of the tiny areas and roll it against that barrier and try and cut off any of the extra clay that is hanging around the outside. I'm going to leave the clay in place, and I'm going to carry on filling in all the pieces that I want to use. Some of them I'm going to use colour on, and some I'm just going to put the raw clay in. For some of the pieces I may not use the entire mould anyway, I might just do part of it. If I try and get any of this clay out of here now, it's going to be so soft and elastic that it's going to stretch, distort, it may even tear, and it's going to be no good to me whatsoever. But equally, I don't want to leave it to dry because I want to shape it around my frog, so it does still need to be mouldable. So what I'm going to do is put this in the freezer. It's not going to freeze it, but it will help to make it a little bit more firm so that when I take it out of the mould, it shouldn't stretch, and I will still be able to mould it around the frog as it warms up to room temperature again. Okay, that's been in the freezer for just over an hour, and it's firmed up quite nicely so that as I'm taking them out, it's almost like it's dried. So you can see that I'm taking them out and none of them are stretching, but if I leave them in place, they're still going to warm up and they'll become soft and mouldable again. So let me take all of these out. And this one I only used part of the mould, as I did with this one. And that gives you a lot more scope. I didn't need it to be as long as it was. These are really fine, and it is starting to warm up really quickly, and I should have probably done this one first because this is the finest one. I don't want to bend or stretch this. Okay, that came out nicely. So this I'm going to place on this side of the frog, and I'm just going to use some glue to do that. So this is bookbinding glue, and I find that that sticks things nicely. It is water-based glue, but it dries clear and permanent. So I'm just going to use my finger, and already it's warmed up enough for me to shape it, and it's starting to stick to itself as well, so I'm going to be careful. I don't want to put any marks or squish any of the texture out. Okay, I'm just going to pop some music on while I'll glue all these pieces in place, and I'll be back once this part's finished. Most of my pieces are in place now, and some of them have got good colour on them, others need to be coloured. But I do have areas like this toe that need to be covered, and I am going to be putting something on here that I can do that with. On the front here I put a shell, and that is bridging one of the broken toes. So the other pieces I've just curved around the body, and I think I am happy with them. But he isn't complete. I think he needs something else, and this is the thing that has been stuck in my head for quite some time. I don't like tentacles or snakes or anything that curls and wriggles, but I have to make an octopus. So I'm starting by rolling up this ball, and I'm forming it into a kind of comma. So it looks a bit like a comma. And that's going to be the centre of my body. So I'm going to take some more of this foam clay, and I'm going to start to wrap that around this piece and cover it. And I do want to make sure that it is covered completely and doesn't have any air between it and the foil. Okay, I'm going to keep wrapping that round, tearing off some more clay and patching it until all of that is covered. And then I'll use my silicone tool to try and smooth out the surface. I formed a kind of cone shape, and then I'm adding the body on top and blending that in. And already it's starting to look kind of like a head on some broad shoulders. I'm pinching some star shapes in and beginning of the legs, and then I'm going to place it on the head. And I've already rolled out one of the legs, and so now I'm just going to blend that into the body, again using my silicone tool and my fingers. and then I can start to curl that in place. And this is what I'm going to use to try and help fix some of those toes. Obviously he's an octopus and he's going to need 8 legs. And this is the part that I really hate. I don't like the curling tentacles, the legs, the way they engulf things. So this really was giving me the EBGBs, but I just had to make it. And I'm going to put some music on so that you can watch me make it, because I'm not going to watch this. Okay, that's finished, and I won't say I've got it in a shape that I like, but it is a shape that I want. So I just need to leave this to dry, and as we have a lot of hot sunshine, I'm going to put it in the window to cook. Okay, it's all dry and I'm ready to paint. I've got an acrylic shimmer paint and a matte chalk paint, just in case the paint doesn't want to adhere in some places. But I think I'm just going to be using this shimmer paint. And I'm going to create my own paint using these chrome powders from Let's Resin, because I've already used them on some of the other pieces. So I want it all to tie in. So I'm going to add some of the chrome powders to the shimmer paint, and in some places I'm also using an acrylic varnish to create my own paints. So I'm going to again put on some music and you can watch me speed paint. Okay, I think that's it. I just need to let that acrylic pen dry and then I can varnish it. But here's my reef frog. So he's part of Froggy Friday, and that's hosted by Lisa, Karen, Loula, Gert and Tim. And here are some photos of it all varnished and finished. And the fact that it does creep me out, I guess, is testament to the fact that it did work. The octopus worked on the poor frog's head, and you can just see its eyes peeking out. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't. It's free, and that's what the QR code is for on the screen. Please come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.